guys, welcome back to My Morning Coffee with Tanya, Gia, and Sarita. We are here to introduce you to the founder of Red Beach Advisors. He was one of the youngest execs in Silicon Valley, brought here to Silicon Beach by another tech firm, international businessman, Ray McKenzie.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning,
Really?
Ray.
Are we starting with the tomfoolery already?
Yeah,
Well,
good
hello.
morning.
Hello.
Thank you for
Good
having
morning.
me. Thank
Hello.
you. All of you have known me for quite some time. So.
Is this your professional voice?
This is a different atmosphere in which we're meeting, which is good.
Okay. Well, you know,
I can't even
yes, we're going to try to make this as fun as possible.
What's so funny?
I mean, you know, this. You guys know me from a really different setting, and I really like this voice is awesome.
It's thank you.
It's
Well, you
awesome.
know, I'm interested to hear what you have to say, Ray, because we have known you for quite some time, and I always see you jet setting here and there. And I'm like, God, Ray is gone again. Ray is here. He's there. But you look so cool doing it. I just want you to know that.
Jet setting and gymming.
Thank
You
you.
look so
With his
cool
beats.
doing it.
Right.
And
Listening
every
to
time
ratchet
you post,
music.
I pay attention because you post some really interesting and informative things. So I
try.
Yeah, well, you do. You do a good job. At least for me, you do. So I do tune in. So I'm going to start off. How did you get started in business?
Gosh, let's see. So, early out of college, interesting enough, one of my frat brothers and I, we actually started an early business.
Okay.
And that goes to Jimmy Bryant. He's now a lawyer out here in Los Angeles. And so we started a web development and IT services firm back in early 2000s or so. And so we've always kind of had that bug to kind of run our own business, run our own ship. And so from there, we had that business. And then his career, obviously, he went into law, and I went deeper into tech and be working with several different technology firms. And so our careers went different directions. However, they went both in successful directions. Then circle back almost 15 years, and it was more of a quality of life decision at the time. You know, interesting enough, and I'll tell this story. I've probably told this story in the past 3 weeks, probably about 8 to 10 times. A company relocated us out here to Los Angeles to do global strategy and service delivery for them, which was great. And then I had been in Europe once a month for 8 to 10 days at a time. And so the kids were getting older. They're growing up, you know, wanting to coach basketball, sports, things like that. And so it was one of those things to where I flew back from Europe and I took a day off. In my entire career, I probably knew, you know, between San Francisco and Washington, D.C., I was in the office probably from 7 in the morning till 6 p.m. every day, if not working longer around the clock. So that was all I knew. From there, gosh, I flew back from Europe. I took a day off. I went to lunch in Hermosa Beach on a Tuesday about 11 o'clock. I'm out there. I'm like, what the hell are all these other people doing out here? Happy as, you know, happy
Looking
as ever.
Fresh.
You know, looking fresh or happy. Everybody's smiling. And I was saying that nobody's mad at the beach, which is true. And so next thing you know, I'm sitting around and all I knew in my entire career was, you know, 7 to 6. You're in the office day to day. That's just what I knew. And so next thing you know, I'm out there and I'm like, I have to have something. I'm missing something.
Your work-life balance was very unbalanced.
Everybody out here is happy. They're not in the office. They don't look like they're in a rush to get to the office. They don't plan to go to the office. What am I missing?
Where is the office?
What am I missing?
Right.
And so with that, it kind of turned into me just asking questions to them while I was having lunch at the bar. It was just, what do you do for a living? And when I asked that question, then I got a bunch of different responses. 'Cause I talked to about 3 to 4 people. And it was just a matter of they were running their own businesses. They were doing different ideas, different concepts, writing books, writing scripts, you know, had working from home or working remotely, different things that were happening to make their lifestyle happy. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to make the decision to try to make this happen for me. Once I said that, I believe the following week I got 2 calls from different CEOs saying, hey, can you help us with certain projects that we have within the business? And that's kind of how Red Beach Advisors got started. So I didn't plan to get into consulting. I didn't plan to start my own firm. I think the goal was let me plan to figure out what's the best quality of life for myself and my family.
You know, I've been feeling that way a lot lately, too, especially like where I live in the Mid-City area. The other day I was driving. I went to the doctor to get blood, and I was hungry because, you know, you got to go on an empty stomach. And I wanted to go to my favorite place, and it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the area was crowded. I was like, where are all these people? Why are they out? How come nobody's at work? And I was really mad about it. I was so mad I called Jeff. I was like, why are all these people out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? Don't they work?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, gosh, and they all seem happy, like, no care in the world, was like just hanging out. And I'm like, why?
I think that happiness comes from maybe the joy of following their dream.
The dream,
right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary. Entrepreneurship is scary. So once you do decide to make that leap, one, you get that monkey off your back. Mm-hmm. But two, for those that are successful, then they have the opportunity to kind of bask in the pride of their work. But I did want to follow up with you about, the two CEOs that called you. What happened in your career before that for them to even want to reach out to you?
I'd say for that, it was more relationships.
Okay.
And I think that's one thing that we as people kind of lose track of to a certain extent. Throughout my career, I started really young, worked really hard, managed a lot of people in a lot of different places, offices. I've been on the road, as you guys know, for a majority of my career. And so traveling wasn't a problem, but in traveling, what you also plan to do is develop good relationships with people.
Okay.
You develop good relationships, you cultivate those relationships, and they're not always let me get something from this person, let me get something. It's more of hey, how are you doing? Let's just check in. We're going to, throughout the course of careers and time, people are going to move. People are going to move away. You're talking about moving to Atlanta. That's not far at all. People people movement, people change companies, people change roles, their life changes, things they want to do in life are different. They have family, they lose family. It happens. But at the same time, as you continue to communicate and keep those relationships, sometimes things circle back in a form of, well, hey, I need this help, let me call this person. And if you keep in touch with people regularly, and it's not always just hey, what can you do for me? It's more of hey, I'm just calling to check in, see how you're doing. And it can be anybody in your career. And so I've been fortunate enough to build very strong relationships. Friends, family, co-workers, associates, and you continue to develop those relationships, and then hopefully you're able to work together in some form or facet. You're able to help each other in some way, and then it just kind of goes from there.
And you and Tanya are just really social, just in general. I think as a collective, you guys both do that very, very well, where you bring people in. Your home has been open to so many people and like to entertain and like to build relationships. And so I think as a unit, you guys are really good at cultivating relationships and making people feel comfortable and loved and all of those things. So that feels like it's translated to professional lives for the both of you.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that, we've always tried to do is obviously our house has been open to people that transplants in certain areas, holidays, whatever you need. Feel free to come over.
I've been in the McKenzie household for Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, everything.
I'm probably less visible in terms of going out. I'll probably call and email a lot of people and text versus my wife, who will be bouncing around everywhere and out and about, luncheons, stuff like that. She likes to be out.
Yeah.
And so, my relationships and how I've interacted with people has changed, but my ability to still communicate and talk to people on a regular basis is still there. Everybody who knows me knows I'm like the easiest person to find. If you text me, I'm going to get back to you. If you call me, I'm going to get back to you. I'm like the easiest person to find.
I want to go back to, you said you got the call from these big CEOs for you to come in and advise them about something. Does your company also advise like small businesses or someone like me who's is going to be retiring soon but still young, but but still want to do some type of work? Do you advise people like that on another career, a second career, or something, things like that?
Yeah, so, and I'll go back and what Red Beach Advisors is for all of your listeners. We're a technology management consulting firm specialized in strategy, process, technology, and people. When it comes to strategy, it's go-to-market strategy, business and product strategy. When it comes to process, it's Lean Six Sigma and ITIL principles. When it comes to technology... It's and I'll circle back. I'll circle back.
Because I'm just shaking my head like I know what you're talking about, but I don't.
It leads in digital transformation, cloud computing, software as a service technologies, and then when it comes to people, it's based around organizational development. and trying to lead people effectively.
I've
probably hired more than 2,000 people. I've probably interviewed more than 25,000 people in my career, and still meeting more and more people every day. And so, we've got, as a firm, a bit of insight in terms of doing the right things for certain size companies. We do work with small businesses, and there's something we'll be launching probably within the next quarter before the end of the year to specifically target helping startups and small businesses try to drive forward effectively with a feasible dollar amount in terms of services, along with exceptional service and consultation. And so, we'll have that launched hopefully by December, I want to say. And then definitely I'll give you a promo code and we'll get you set up on it.
How did you realize that you had a knack for not just building businesses and supporting businesses with getting to the next level? Like, how did you cultivate that skill? Because it's a skill.
One of the things I've picked up is listening and observing. People that are smarter than you goes a much longer way than trial and error for yourself. So what people try to do is they'll start a business and they'll go through the process of trial and error. And it happens with every business.
Yes.
Happens all the time. However, there is the ability to gather insight from people who have been there before, who have done it before, who have seen some of the challenges that you have, the pitfalls and things like that.
Learn from other people's mistakes.
In my career, luckily I've been able to work with amazing people. I've been able to work for amazing people, and people have worked for me that have also been just equally amazing. And so you watch, listen, learn, and by watching what they do and accepting what they do, you can take little tidbits of everything from people. And sometimes it's a bit of, you could say it's a recipe to a certain extent, to where you go to somebody's house and they make this dish, but they've added this ingredient. And then somebody else does this and they've added this ingredient. And then you go along the line and you continue to pick up best practices. And as you take those best practices in, then you can take those and share those with other companies. So the best practice for maybe a company that is just starting, maybe a 1 or 2 person place, is much different than a best practice for a place that has 50 to 100 employees, which is very different than a place that has 10,000 employees. And so if you've worked in those different organizations, and I have, from small up into very large and global companies, you learn what's best at certain times.
So Tanya and I, we kind of talked about a little bit about that the other day. Well, about a week ago, we were on a call, and again, you called me, making me feel good about who I am. And
she's so good at that.
Yeah, she is, and getting me to commit to something that I don't do, but she's good at that.
Careful what you say around me.
Yeah. So, and I was telling her about you talked about a few key things. A lot of times in small businesses, a lot of things you do learn from trial and error when you're a small business starting out, because you don't have those mentors or those people around you. And because I've had another business prior to the business I have now, and I always tell people a lot of what I learned was from trial and error, because it was a new industry. It was a ceramics art studio, but I don't regret that. But now the things I've learned, I try to pass on to other people, through the trial and error. So, but I do think small businesses do need other businesses like what you're going to start up to help them, get to the next level.
And I say this is the challenge is you're a small business, so you're working on a smaller budget.
Yes.
So how do you take that small budget and apply it to the business and reinvest inside the business to make sure that you're not wasting money?
Right.
Because you only have a finite budget. So you don't want to spend $500 on this when you need $500 to work for 5 different things. So the goal is to give guidance to companies that allows them to use their money the most effective way and cost-effective way with the best service that they can get.
Disclaimer, people have been asking me for years, what do you do? And I can't accurately verbalize it. So I'm glad that you're here to share that.
Yay.
But with that also, I'd love for you to kind of get into what it has been like to be one of the only in the room, particularly in the technology industry, but for those that are watching in any industry. How do you navigate that process of being one of the only? You've always been the youngest. Or the only minority, or, the only. So kind of walk through that process.
It's different. I mean, I think as I kind of went through my career, and I was really young, and we had quite a bit of success as kind of a young executive group, which was great because everybody who's been part of that group has gone on to bigger and better things. However, it's difficult. You know, you go through a point in your career to where you grow, and how I was growing my career was I wanted to climb that corporate ladder. Okay. That's what I thought was the path. And so, you know, you make different changes, you specialize in different areas, you have a lot of success, and so eventually I was climbing. And then it was just a matter of me sitting back saying, okay, instead of me having to acquiesce to what these other companies are doing or these other executives are doing and try to prove myself, because I was always the youngest. Was always the youngest. Was more than likely always the darkest as well. And that happens. Fortunate enough, I was able to have some people who would allow me to even be in the room. Okay. So I can't say that it was that. It was somebody has to help you along the way. Exactly. And so I've had a couple of people who have been able to introduce me to areas to show my face, to show my capabilities, to show what I could do. But it's tough because you get to a point to where ageism is real. So, you know, you get to a point to where either you're too young or you may be too old and age out. And then also, you know, your skin color is real. And so you have to be above and beyond other people's capabilities to prove that you belong to be there. You have the experience to be there. You know, I experienced both. I was really young. I was a black guy in the room. So, you know, while I still had the opportunities were fantastic, but the ability to move up wasn't always there. So I'd say, hey, I'm leading a division of the business. We're doing extremely well. You know, I know my stuff. My team knows my stuff. We always perform. We always do well. But then the ability to get that promotion to the next level when I'm 31, 32 versus I'm competing against people who are 45, 50, 55. The natural inclination in the room is this person is. Yeah, the natural inclination in the room is they know more. They've been around the block more. They're more qualified. Move them up.
Not recognizing that, especially
not recognizing that performance is there.
Right,
exactly.
You know,
but they don't. But sometimes performance isn't what is the most impactful. It's not what's the most important. It's the optics of things.
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, to a certain extent, for sure. I mean, if you're going in to close a business deal and you walk in with, you know, three gentlemen who are between 45 and 55, and you know they could be white, they could be black, they could be other. You're more than likely going to close the deal because you're displaying the inherent experience that comes with that age that you believe, versus walking in the room with a bunch of people who may be of different colors and may be 27 to 35. Right. You know, the question is, what have you done?
So I get really curious, especially coming from the mental health space. How do you create, or how do you self-care? Like, what do you do to re-energize yourself? What do you do for self-care? What do you do to combat all of the things that we know the answer, some of the answers, but what do you do to combat some of the challenges that you face with being an entrepreneur, being in tech, being the only, like, those are some really big things that could be stacked up against a person, but how do you handle it?
I say for me, I mean, I try to go in the gym regularly.
No, not you.
Every morning.
Not every morning.
In the gym this morning.
Not every morning at 5 a.m.
We try.
Listening to E40.
No, he's there every morning.
Not listening to Too Short every morning.
We try to get in there. You know, I like to work. Strange enough, I like it.
You like it?
I like it. I always have. So it's never been a problem to work. You know, the gym. Let's see, what else do I do?
What'd you do
I watch
this weekend?
sports. I watch HGTV. Those are probably on 2 channels.
He does.
Okay.
You know,
I
hang out with the fellas a little bit. It's college football season, so big college football fans.
But you're also a football family as well, so.
Well, sports family. Watch the kids. The kids play a lot of sports and stuff like that. So, you know, you get a chance to take your eyes off the computer a little bit and work from time to time, get out and see people.
Do you double date, triple date? Quadruple date?
Wait, what?
Nobody likes me, Jan. So
Nobody likes you.
I'm not invited too many places.
Ray, I like you.
I'm not invited. I'm not invited anywhere.
Oh no! Wait,
It's a different conversation.
Ray, you've been
Right,
invited.
a whole offline
Ray,
conversation.
you've been invited.
Well,
Yeah, because you guys, when
like
you
I
guys,
said, I'm the easiest person to find.
when you guys get out.
Ooh.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, when you Jeffrey, did you hear that? He's an easy person to find. Okay, it's on and cracking now. Okay,
Easiest person.
we're going out with the McKenzies. We're going to go out with them because we've been trying to go out with them for what was it 2 years now?
You know he can't talk. I mean, Jeffrey is here, but he ain't here, so he can't
well,
be like,
he watching. Look, I know you watching. So, Ray said, "Get at him."
Ray said,
I'll keep it together while I'm out.
He tried. But look, before we get too far off topic,
Yes.
I did want you to speak a little bit for the people about diversifying their portfolios and their accounts and some of the other things that people can do to kind of glow up. Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the things, when we were talking about this last night, and I'll take a step back on your question and talk about, I'd say, the gap in information. So you guys talked about, what we did for, our anniversary. We went somewhere relatively nice, went away. And then, but the interesting thing that I noticed that I pointed out to her was there was nobody like us that was really there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
yeah.
And when you take a look at that, it's not that we're not able to go.
We just don't know about it.
It's either we don't know about it, or to a certain extent you may not be able to afford it.
Yeah.
And be able to enjoy that stuff. And that circles back to kind of the gap in wealth for people sometimes. And that's something that, we've seen a lot of. In the tech world, I was just talking to somebody yesterday about this, one of my frat brothers, and about 1% of the money that gets funded to companies, it goes to black people. So that's one thing. But another thing that I like to stress is we actually have the ability now to, let's take a step back. There was a thing in the 90s and early 2000s called the digital divide. Digital divide was when certain communities, certain people had access to technology, whether it be computers or the internet. Okay, so now the digital divide, for the most part, in that sense, has been solved. All right. So now we have this thing that I still call probably the new digital divide, which is how we actually consume information. It's completely different than how other people consume information. And I'll say this, I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, I want to say, I don't know how many months ago. I was in Charlotte, I'm in a meeting. It was 9:30 on the dot. The guy's phone alarm goes off. You guys know what happens at 9:30 in the morning? East Coast time, or 6:30 in the morning?
East Coast time?
Is that
6:30 in the morning, West Coast time.
That's when the stock market opens?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's when the stock market opens. So that's one thing we all should know.
Yeah.
Now, with that was the first time I'd ever, and he was a white gentleman, great guy. That was the first time I'd ever seen somebody actually focus on, that timing of that.
Okay.
But to take that back to the information is that we're now in an age to where we all have the same access to information that everybody else has. So it's no longer do you have computers. It's no longer do you have internet. We all have phones. And this allows you to get anywhere,
our little computers,
get as much information as possible as everywhere else. But the challenge is we don't consume the information the same.
We'd rather make
So
Popeyes rich.
And that goes back to
Making Popeyes rich.
It goes back to how do we consume information? We have access to it. Everybody has access to it. But are we spending our time looking up how to make our money work for us?
Yep.
Or spending time on entertainment and media and jokes and memes? And all of that stuff has a time and place for it.
Right.
And there's times to decompress and obviously, things like that. But when people want to learn how to make their money work for them,
They
we
take
have
an
access
active
to the
role.
information.
Well, you're right, but do you think it's because we don't know how? Some people don't. Is it that we just don't know how to? We have access to information, and we can go get it. But do all of us always understand the information that we're going to get? And that's what I think. A lot of it is that they understand entertainment. They understand a joke. That's easy for our people, but when you let's talk about the stock market and things like that. Well, a lot of us didn't grow up knowing anything about the stock market. So we'll hear people say, "Oh, you should buy stock. You should do this." But and we all are going to be in the room saying, "Yeah, But half the people in the room, and I'm just going to keep it real, don't know what the hell, what's the first place to go, first thing to do. They just be like, and they're so afraid to say, "Hey, I don't know," so they just sit here and be like, "Okay." Then they might go reach up and go on the Google stock market, okay, and read a whole bunch of stuff, and they still don't understand what's the first thing to do to to acquire stock.
And to add on to that, one of the things that we have discussed, I can tell you, my kids.
I was just about to. That was going to be my.
Of the car,
that was my question.
They are going to invest their money in. So they've been taught that.
They've been taught that at an early age. Well, a lot of us
totally agree
have
with
not
you.
been taught that.
Absolutely.
But we've been hearing this. Oh, you're getting ready to retire. You got to do this. You need to do that. And because we haven't been taught it, we're not that. We understand it maybe a little bit, but we're not that good at it. So now we're kind of leery because it's like, when you start messing with people's money, they like, whoa, they want to know. Okay.
Yeah.
How much I'm going to lose?
Now, I'd say our generation is probably the first generation that's going to have equal access to the information that's available to almost everybody else. So the ability to do certain things because of the internet, it just takes a little bit of research. So if we take the time to research, then we can go ahead and learn.
Right.
But you also have to be open to ask questions. And it doesn't matter if you're, 15 or 55. If you want to get into doing certain things with your money, you're able to do so and ask questions of people to teach you. I've got, there's some people that I talk to regularly, and they've got different organizations that are trying to teach financial literacy, specifically in our community. Like Rashawn Williams, he started the Comed Institute. There's a couple others that are out there, and they're specifically trying to give back to the community and talk to people to give us those lessons. People have to, one, want to research.
Right.
Two, people need to be able to ask questions. And if you can ask those questions, you can get the answers. But sometimes you have to humble yourself. Like, I don't know everything.
Right.
There's nothing you'll ever know. I don't know everything.
Exactly.
But if you start to open your eyes and say, how can I make my money work for me? And what are the different ways I can do that? Then you start to go lead yourself down a path of asking more and more questions.
So what have you taught your children about investing? And because it's been such an important space that both you and Tanya have occupied. So what are the lessons that you've taught your kids?
The one thing I try to tell them is hard work is everything. There's a couple of things I can't teach people. There's two things I can't teach people specifically. I can't teach you how to show up on time. And I can't teach you how to work hard. Those are the two things that I can't teach you. I can teach you how to type. I can teach you how to cut hair. I can teach you how to build a house. You can learn how to do everything on YouTube. But if you can't show up on time and you don't have the work ethic, I can't teach you.
Right.
Okay. Now, when it comes to specifically to investing, I just talk to them. And really, kids now are visual. So you've got to functionally show them what's going on and how it works. Like, my boys they play a lot of video games. They play Xbox. Xbox is Microsoft. They know if they want some money to go buy a gift card to spend on Fortnite, whatever game, whatever thing they want to spend, they know I need to go get a Microsoft gift card. So in turn, I'm like, hey, Microsoft is a publicly traded stock. Some of these things are conversations we need to have at the dinner table that previous generations didn't have, because previous generations didn't have the information.
Exactly.
At the same time, they're also visual. So you kind of have to show them what the stock market is. So I myself have taken money and put it into their own individual stock accounts. And then they have their own stock accounts. And then I show them what happened that day. My daughter will come to me in the morning. She'll be like, hey, how's my stock account look? And then
how's my portfolio diversifying?
And then and then the boys will come and say, what happened today? What happened last week? And then I'll be like, hey, we're going to make an investment. And they'll say, oh, I want to invest in such company because, okay, they're like arguing about Microsoft or Nike because they wear shoes, but they also play video games.
And they know when something new is coming out and the stock market could go up for that particular.
Yeah, they somehow have put it together because they're consumers, and we're all consumers at the end of the day.
Right.
And so this kind of goes back to
and
the
Black people
are
the
we're
biggest
the ones
consumers.
that drive the culture.
Exactly.
We're the biggest consumers. So if we're the biggest consumers, let's take the information that we have and that we consume, and let's take that back into our money and invest that into these companies that we are so willingly helpful to support,
right,
and reap the benefits on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to push a company to get $100 million because of our efforts on Black Twitter or social media, we should also
have some
cash in, right? Be able to cash
and be
in
bought
on that.
in on the idea as well.
Exactly.
So if you want to get into a restaurant brand for whatever reason, and you want to go invest in Yum Brands is out there, and you say you love Taco Bell. Okay, Yum Brands
the way
owns Taco
my
Bell.
digestive tract is set up, I can't say
Yum
that.
Brands owns Taco Bell. So if you eat a lot of Taco Bell, it would just make sense to invest in Yum Brands because that's something
I'm sure half of our listeners didn't even know who Yum Brands was. So thank you.
It's something that invest in things and that's also a big lesson.
But we also got to know
people have questions about building their business, being Black in tech or just in tech at all, or ways to diversify their portfolio. Why don't you let them know kind of how to get in touch with you and what you have coming up with Red Beach Advisors and Ray McKenzie?
Gosh, let's see. So to get in contact with me, contact me on LinkedIn, Raymond McKenzie. That's probably the best way. That's kind of where I kind of steer everybody. And everybody should be on LinkedIn.
Even his name sounds like,
money.
Sings money and powerful.
Everybody
Raymond.
should be on LinkedIn. I think that's the best place, one, to find a
Everybody
job.
should be on LinkedIn.
If you want to find a job, I think LinkedIn is probably the best source.
Okay, what if you don't want to find a job? Do you have to be on LinkedIn?
You want to make professional connections, LinkedIn is also the best place.
Okay.
It's always the best place.
Are you not on LinkedIn?
You know she ain't on LinkedIn.
We got to talk.
You got to be on LinkedIn.
I have a LinkedIn account, but I don't remember
Gia.
how to log into it.
I don't remember how to log into it. I got a LinkedIn.
You need to update it.
Got to be on LinkedIn. I think it's probably one of the more professional tools that's out there that can help. So contact me on LinkedIn, Raymond McKenzie. You look me up. Probably the only Black guy that is named Raymond McKenzie on there. But anyways,
Enough about that.
Gosh, let's see. Red Beach Advisors, what we're working on. So, we've got a portfolio of pretty large global clients, so we're doing some work with them. Got a portfolio of early stage companies that we work with, startups. Developed a partnership with Multipass Ventures, which is a VC out of St. Louis, led by Chris Johnson, who's a brother, which is good. So trying to help find some different companies out there that are talented. Let's see, what else is going on?
You said a VC?
Yeah, venture capital firm.
You shared with everybody all these nuggets about
You're not letting me finish. You're not letting me
Let
finish.
him finish.
You're not letting me finish.
Let him finish,
his train of
Tanya.
thought.
You bully her, you're not going to
Right,
bully me.
yeah,
today.
that's right. Let him finish, Tanya.
Today's not the day.
Not today.
Go ahead,
Not the
Ray.
So
one.
then from there, we're also building another service and offshoot of Red Beach Advisors to the end of this year. Hopefully we'll get that launched and take that to market. That's a good thing. Working with some other colleagues on a couple different ventures too. So we've got a lot going on, which is good stuff.
What is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
I just want to work for you now, Ray. Just
No, you
sit
don't
up
want to
here.
work for me. You
No,
want to
no.
You want to work for yourself. And
I want to
with
partner with you, Ray, because
Yeah.
you just you're just awesome.
me. Thank you.
You are,
Thank you.
so.
What's the legacy you want to leave behind?
That it was helpful. I think that's it. That was helpful. Whether it be you're going through a bad time, I'm always willing to buy drinks.
Hey.
Yes.
Whether you want a connection to somebody, I'm always
going
willing to
through a
make an
bad time.
introduction. That was helpful. Just able to help people go in the right direction when they needed to, depending upon what's going on. I think that's the big thing. Obviously, the kids, and the family want them to be successful. But it's about, instilling certain values, just helping people.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing that, we need to learn as people is sometimes the easiest question is, how can I help you?
Yes.
And it's not so much.
How can I help you?
It's not so much, what can I get back from you? It's how can I help you? And it may not be anything and it may not happen right away, but I think we have to genuinely, instead of talking about each other, try to help
each other. We really do have to work on that because I'm really about that too, and I think that's a lot. We're missing that whole thing about being helpful.
Yeah, and it's we inherently have, and I was just in New York last week. Sitting down with another young brother, and we were like, the crabs in the barrel scenario. I think we're the generation that has the ability to stop that.
Yes.
Where everybody can help each other. And
there's enough money for
out there for
everybody.
There's money, there's
We
enough
can all
opportunity,
eat.
there's enough help so everybody can have success.
That's why I say that.
And the sooner we can get over that, the sooner we all help each other and other races and other people, and then you show more value that way.
Exactly.
So, it's all about being able to help and helping people and helping them be successful in whatever they choose to chase is what's important.
Right.
So what do you have coming up, Miss Sarita?
Just preparing for A3C, the hip hop conference. Making sure that I'm putting together some decks for a project that I'm doing, and just continuing to see clients and be of service and be helpful.
And for people to get in touch with you, remind them.
I want to say LinkedIn because I feel Ray's eyes staring at me, but I can't really say that with a whole lot of confidence because I have a LinkedIn page, but I don't check it with regularity. But you can get at me. You can DM me at Just Be With Sarita on Instagram, or you can look at my website, which I am updating. I took new pictures, as you saw last time, at SaritaBMFT.com.
Awesome. Miss Gia, what do you have coming up?
My wedding anniversary is coming up,
Hey.
which is next week. So I'm looking forward to that. And other than that, I'll just be continuing to create new jewelry items and clothing items for all to share. You can reach me at LinkedIn.
She's going to get that updated.
Yeah, Gia Neal, I believe, on LinkedIn. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's Gia Neal. But you can also reach me on social media. I guess LinkedIn is social media too, but another social media is Instagram. The Mahogany Box on Instagram, and on Facebook, The Mahogany Box.
All right.
I want to come back and talk about some fun stuff.
Yes, we want
one
you
of
to
my
come back,
questions
Ray.
was, why do you love Keith Sweat so much?
Yeah.
But
Keith Sweat says all the stuff I don't have to.
Okay. See, I love Ray. Ray, we
It's
want
that
you.
simple.
We
It's
want
that
you to come.
simple.
You know, Ray, we're gonna have you and
He
Jeff
does
come
all
on at the
the,
same
everybody's
time.
like, oh, he can't sing, oh, he begs. He
Are
does
we really
all
having
this
this
stuff.
we are having this
He does
conversation.
all-
Yes.
He says all this stuff that you don't have to as a guy.
Yeah.
So all you got to do is put it in and shut up.
Hey,
And sometimes, I'd say, guys, sometimes it's better to just shut up sometimes.
Yeah.
Let somebody else
Well, at least
talk.
I've taught him something.
But that's
over the years.
also for people in general. Listen more. Talk less.
we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Well, we want you to come back, Ray. So we will look at our calendar and see. We'll actually look at your calendar, because
Right.
You're always,
because we were supposed to do this 3 months ago, 4 months
Yeah,
ago,
I've got to
5
go to
months.
New Hampshire.
Well, you're busy,
I gotta
so-
go to
Right.
Philadelphia, and then
Yeah.
I'm back.
But
So-
we're gonna have you back, and we're gonna also have Mr. Sneed's gonna come on.
Okay.
Our
And,
other
and, and Kevin as
Yeah,
well. We're
and
going to
Kevin,
throw
We
him
can
in.
argue. We can argue. And
So
have
we'll
good
have a
time.
show of men, something, and maybe we'll just sit in the audience.
That
and
would
you
be
guys
dope.
Will,
We
will
can
be
cheer
my
him
morning
on.
coffee for a day.
No control.
see.
Yeah,
We'll
absolutely.
see.
And then
Yeah.
Mrs. McKenzie.
That might be good, Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
No, what are you
We
up to? We
appreciate it.
didn't.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, want to thank him for coming out because time is of the essence. But
Right.
I do want to give out my bold branding win of the week.
Did you
to
just slurp
Miss-
water on the
Yeah, he
mic?
did.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
My bold
I've done
branding,
worse.
my bold branding win of the week to Miss Monica Brown. I watched the Own My Conversation last night.
Oh,
Did you
yes.
watch it?
I didn't
it was
watch it.
amazing.
Was it?
But I love Miss Monica because she's going through a divorce right now. She stayed very on point in regards to why her black is beautiful. She's never been negative about her divorce. And she just put out some new music. So, bold branding win of the week, Miss Monica. For me, I do have a webinar that is today. So, if you have not signed up, please go to Sand and Shores on social media, on Facebook or
IG.
sandandshores.com. And
Can I
sign
get
up.
a print version
It'll
of
be
the?
fun.
Can I get a print version of the?
No, you
webinar?
can't.
The transcript?
I can send it to you, though.
I've got 3 things I want to share. Before
Okay.
I leave. All right,
Did
first
you
thing.
just take over?
First things
Yeah, I
first.
love it.
Change the conversations you're having at the dinner table.
Okay.
Talk about money. Talk about investing. Talk about your future. Relationships are important. Cultivate your relationships. Take care of them. Be helpful. And the last thing is listen and observe. It's very important to everything and people around you.
Okay. You guys heard it first here from Ray, aka Ray Ray,
AKA.
aka
No,
Chocolate
ZKA.
Drop.
Right.
What was your line name again?
Sugar Ray.
Sugar Ray.
Also known as
also- Sugar Ray.
Yeah,
You
place
guys
Cop
heard it
Alpha
first
Sun,
here.
Spring 98. Delta Epsilon Chapter. San
And,
Diego
There you
State.
have it.
and
The dungeon.
And this is
and
the tomfoolery and shenanigans
so we
of the day.
hope you guys will tune in next month. Check us out the second and fourth Monday at 10 a.m. Until then, you guys have a wonderful day.
Thanks for coming.